It's Friday night, the family is tired, the kids are hungry, and a frozen pizza slides out of the freezer and into a 400-degree oven. 20 minutes later, dinner is on the table. You've done this 100 times, your parents did it, everyone does it. What you haven't done is actually read the ingredient panel on the back of that flat cardboard box, and what's on that panel, in most mass-market frozen pizzas, is a density of additives, preservatives, emulsifiers, industrial oils, and flavor technology that would stop you in your tracks if you understood it line by line. 9 specific frozen pizza brands have been connected in independent testing and consumer advocacy. Reports to formulation concern serious enough that emergency medicine physicians and gastroenterologists have started asking patients about their frozen pizza consumption during routine history taking. And 3 brands, quietly, have resisted the race to the bottom and continue to produce frozen pizzas that are essentially what the name implies. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how to tell them apart. The Food and Drug Administration permits the use of a wide range of preservatives, dough conditioners, and flavor additives in commercial pizza production, and the labeling disclosure requirements allow manufacturers to use generic terms like natural flavor and spices without specifying the underlying components. The USDA oversees the meat components used on frozen pizzas, including pepperoni, sausage, and ham, and its regulations permit the use of sodium nitrite as a preservative in cured meats, a practice that the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer has flagged as a concern when combined with high-temperature cooking that can convert nitrites to nitrosamines. A 2020 analysis in the journal Food Control noted that certain frozen pizza products contain sodium levels exceeding 1,500 milligrams per serving, which represents more than 60% of the daily sodium ceiling recommended by the American Heart Association. Studies suggest that frequent consumption of ultra-processed foods, including frozen pizzas, may contribute to inflammation markers and cardiometabolic risk over time, and research indicates that children consuming frozen pizzas as a regular dinner option may be receiving a significant proportion of their weekly sodium load from this single food category. These concerns are not speculation. They appear repeatedly in peer-reviewed literature and in regulatory advisories. The first frozen pizza brand of concern is the National value-tier brand sold in oversized multi-packs at major warehouse retailers. The ingredient panel on this product lists more than 50 discrete components, including multiple subcategorized forms of modified food starch, sodium phosphates, DATEM emulsifier, sodium stearoyl lactylate, and a cheese analog that combines real cheese with casein and oil blends designed to mimic the stretch and melt of mozzarella at a lower cost. The pepperoni on this pizza is a pepperoni-flavored meat product rather than traditional dry-cured pepperoni, and the sausage crumbles contain mechanically separated meat that has been flavored and textured to resemble Italian sausage. A consumer paying less than $3 per pizza for this product is receiving exactly what the price point suggests. The second brand is the Celebrity Chef endorsed premium frozen pizza line sold in upscale grocery chains. The marketing promises authentic recipes, quality ingredients, and restaurant-style execution. The ingredient panel, however, reveals the use of multiple preservatives, a dough conditioner blend, and natural flavoring agents that the chef's own restaurant would never use. The Celebrity Chef Premium commands a price of $8 to $12 per pizza, but the actual ingredient profile is closer to the mid-tier mass-market products than to a restaurant pizza. The name on the box does the marketing work. The factory does the production work. The consumer pays the celebrity tax. The third brand is the Rising Crust frozen pizza line that introduced self-rising dough technology in the 1990s and still dominates that subcategory. The self-rising dough requires a specific chemistry of leavening agents, dough conditioners, and stabilizers to produce consistent rise during home baking, and the resulting ingredient list contains sodium aluminum phosphate, calcium propionate, and a proprietary dough enhancer. For consumers watching aluminum intake, which some research has linked to concerns in aging populations, The sodium aluminum phosphate disclosure is material, and yet it rarely appears in consumer discussion of the product. The fourth brand is the thin crust frozen pizza line, marketed to consumers seeking a lighter alternative. The thin crust positioning implies fewer calories and simpler ingredients, but the crust itself often contains more preservative chemistry than standard crust to achieve crispness without over-drying. And the reduced dough mass is often compensated for by increased cheese and sauce loads that drive sodium and calorie density higher than consumers expect. The fifth brand is the stuffed crust pizza line, which adds a ring of cheese inside the crust perimeter. The stuffed crust engineering requires specific dough chemistry to prevent cheese bleed through during baking, and the cheese used in the stuffed portion is often a blended cheese analog product rather than whole milk mozzarella. The novelty of the format obscures the formulation, and the price premium for the stuffed crust reflects the engineering complexity rather than ingredient quality. The sixth brand is the Meat Lovers or Supreme variety, that piles multiple cured meats onto a single pizza. The combined sodium load from pepperoni, sausage, ham, bacon, and beef crumbles can exceed 2,000 milligrams per serving, and the nitrite load from the multiple cured meats compounds the concerns the WHO has flagged. A single Meat Lovers pizza can deliver a full day's sodium intake for an adult, and for children who have lower body weight and correspondingly lower sodium tolerance, the impact is proportionally greater. The seventh brand is the fresh frozen or refrigerated pizza line, sold alongside deli products rather than in the freezer. The fresh positioning implies minimal processing, but the ingredient panels on these products often match the preservative profile of standard frozen pizzas, with the addition of potassium sorbate and other shelf stability chemistry to manage the refrigerated distribution model. The refrigerated format is marketing, not formulation. The eighth brand is the gluten-free frozen pizza line, which has expanded significantly in recent years. Gluten-free crust formulations require alternative flour blends, typically combining rice flour, tapioca starch, potato starch, and xanthan gum or gur gum, and many commercial gluten-free pizzas add significant fat and sugar to achieve palatable texture. For consumers with celiac disease, these products serve a real need, but for consumers choosing gluten-free for lifestyle reasons, the trade-off often involves consuming more added fat and sugar than a standard pizza would contain. The ninth brand is the cauliflower crust frozen pizza line, marketed as a low-carb, vegetable-based alternative. Independent analysis has shown that some cauliflower crust pizzas contain less than 30% cauliflower by weight, with the majority of the crust mass coming from rice flour, cornstarch, and cheese binders. The vegetable-forward marketing is misleading relative to the actual composition, and consumers paying a premium for what they perceive as a healthful innovation may be receiving a product closer to conventional pizza in nutritional terms. Here are three brands that have resisted the race to the bottom. The first is the artisan, wood-fired frozen pizza line produced by smaller regional companies, typically sold in specialty grocers and natural foods markets. These products use simple ingredient panels with flour, water, salt, yeast, olive oil, tomato, mozzarella, and a short list of toppings. The crust is par-baked in wood-fired ovens before freezing, which produces a texture and flavor closer to restaurant pizza. Prices range from $9 to $13, and the ingredient integrity is substantial. The second is the imported Italian frozen pizza, sold in some specialty and warehouse retailers, often produced in Italy under European food regulations that prohibit several additives common in American frozen pizzas. These products carry country of origin labeling and import documentation that makes the provenance verifiable. The third is the small number of American frozen pizza brands that have built transparency into their business model, publishing their ingredient sources, their production methods, and their sodium profiles prominently. These brands tend to be smaller, newer, and more expensive, but they deliver a frozen pizza that a discerning cook would recognize as honest food. Here is what a protective investigator would recommend. First, commit to reading every frozen pizza ingredient panel before purchase. A product with more than 15 ingredients is likely carrying preservative and additive complexity that serves the manufacturer rather than the consumer. Second, pay attention to the sodium line specifically and aim for products delivering under 700 milligrams per serving. This is achievable with careful shopping but requires attention. Third, avoid cheese analog formulations entirely. Look for mozzarella cheese as a distinct ingredient, not mozzarella cheese and imitation mozzarella or similar combination language. Fourth, consider making your own frozen pizzas. A weekend afternoon of making several pizza doughs, par-baking crusts, and freezing them with portion sauce and cheese produces a home-frozen pizza that outperforms every commercial product on ingredient integrity and costs half the price. Fifth, when you do buy frozen, prioritize smaller brands with simple ingredient panels, even at higher prices, because the per-serving cost difference over a month is modest and the cumulative ingredient exposure reduction is substantial. Sixth, treat frozen pizza as an occasional convenience rather than a weekly staple. Even well-formulated frozen pizzas carry a processed food footprint that should occupy a limited share of a family's diet. Seventh, engage children in the process of understanding what's in their food. A 10-year-old who learns to read ingredient panels becomes a 30-year-old who makes better choices, and the frozen pizza aisle is an excellent training ground for that literacy. The frozen pizza box represents convenience, speed, and reliability, and those are real values in a busy family's life. But the industry has exploited those values to sell products that deliver progressively less of what the category name implies. 9 brands have crossed the line into formulations that a thoughtful consumer would avoid if the ingredient panels were as prominent as the front-of-box imagery. 3 brands have held the line and continue to produce frozen pizza worth the name. Knowing the difference is a simple act of attention that converts a compromised meal into a defensible one, and over the years that compound through every family dinner, the difference shows up in health, in taste preferences, and in the understanding your children develop about what food is supposed to be. Open the box with your eyes open.